Okay. Welcome to the Board of Adjustment for the Town of Ocean View. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we need an approval of the agenda, please.
I move we approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion has carried for the agenda.
Before we go any further, Madam Chair, may I interrupt you for one moment?
Certainly.
As you may recall, Mr. Brendel had to recuse himself previously on this application. Mr. Brendel still has to recuse himself, and so I have made an arrangement with him to leave the building and go enjoy the evening while you and I work.
Mr. Schroeder, would you please tell the rest of the committee why? Because is that permissible or is that not?
No, it's not necessary.
No, fine, okay. Have a good evening. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving, you guys.
Happy Thanksgiving to you also. Okay.
He's going to stuff his turkey.
Okay, we need approval of the minutes of October the 21st, please.
Thank you.
I move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion has carried. Mr. Solicitor, I turn over the new business to you and to Mr. Simino.
This is a resumption of a public hearing that was conducted on May 20th of 2021. It is the application number V-415, which was submitted by the property owners George M. and Marianne Pickerel for property zoned R1 and located on 13 Demery Drive. The property owners seek a variance in order to place in order for all existing and proposed structures to exceed the maximum allowable lot coverage of 35%. There is a vast wealth of information that came in May that Mr. Lawson, did you happen to listen to any of the main material?
I listened to it the entire session.
And you had an opportunity at that time to review all of the exhibits that were submitted?
I reviewed the exhibits that are pertaining to tonight's meeting. I did not review the exhibits for the previous meeting.
Yeah, I have good news, they're the same, so
Okay.
you're good to go. With that in the back of our minds, Mr. Lawson, or Lawless, you can participate
Thank you, sir.
in this evening's meeting. Let me swear in Mr. Semino. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give the Board of Adjustment of the Town of Ocean View is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Would you like to bring us up to date on where we are with this application, sir?
Yes, this application V415 is a continuation from the May 20th, 21 meeting, at which time the Board of Adjustment had recommended that the applicant go back to the drawing board basically and see what they could do to lessen the footprint of their improvement.
And they have submitted that information?
They have submitted that information. At the time, at the May 20th, 2021 hearing, the applicant was seeking a variance for lot coverage of approximately 49 plus or minus percent, or 14 plus or minus percent over the maximum allowable lot coverage. This case was deferred, the vote on this case was deferred to allow the property owner to revise the proposed plan to get the lot coverage closer to the maximum allowable lot coverage of 35%. This plan is currently proposed as a maximum lot coverage of 44.3%, or 9.3% over the maximum allowable lot coverage. This is a reduction of approximately 5% from the previous plan submitted on May the 20th, 21. The property owner has eliminated the pool house and decreased the width of the pool apron to less than the impervious lot coverage. I would also say that in keeping with previous decisions the board has made recently, while you're deliberating all of the information in front of you and arriving at a decision, you should probably think about similar cases that you've heard involving pools in which you granted or viewed the variance application favorably. With that, I don't really have anything else to say.
Do you all have any questions of Mr. Semino before we go to the public?
Yes, may I go back to your statement that you said that the pool house has been explained to me again, or read?
They were planning to construct a pool house, I believe.
Yes.
I don't recall the size of it, but it was quite large. And so they have eliminated that. They eliminated an existing shed and constructed and proposed to construct a smaller shed.
Thank you, I just wanted that clarified, thank you. Gentlemen, any other questions?
Any other questions? All right, we have, we'll make a part of the record, and this is, I believe, Mirstone Consultants prepared this. It's dated, it says November 2020, but I know it's been revised because it's the new document. But this is the new lines and grades plan for the in-ground pool to be located on 13 Demery Drive, which is the property of Mr. and Mrs. Pickrell. And I will ask if Mr. and Mrs. Pickrell want to add anything to the body of knowledge that we have. Do you, Mr. Pickrell?
I just want to correct him.
Yeah, you have to be sworn in.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So if you'll step to the microphone. Keep in mind the microphone, that one doesn't work, but the rest of them do. I need for you to stand at the podium so that they can see you on the web, right? There you go, so look good. Do you state your name for the record?
George M. Pickrell.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give the Board of Adjustment of the Town of Ocean View is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Now you can speak.
Okay. Yeah, we reorganized this whole thing and we've eliminated the pool house altogether. And to compensate for the pool house, we have an existing shed, which is approximately 12 by 10. What we want to do, so we can put the pool equipment inside the shed, is expand that shed by making it a 16 by 10. And the pad that it will sit on will be a 16 by 14. It'll be a little bit of an overhang for aesthetic purposes to keep us out of the rain. So I just want to correct that.
Chairperson, I'm hard of hearing. I'm going to move to here. I'm sorry.
Certainly. So with Mr. Pickrell, you just amp it up a little.
Okay. So that's basically what we're doing. And I don't know if you read the Board of Adjustment thing we set in, but we sat down with Ken at a meeting at his office, and we tried to justify using the 44.3%. But because if you look at Greenview Shores, there's 30 lots, and 30 of it, I think it's 17 of those lots are dog leg, and I forget how many are rectangle, and then there's a couple that are irregular shaped. And when they built the development, they kind of put a curve in front of our house, which cut the front of our yard of our house off if they would have wanted it straight. And we calculated that if they were to run both sides out 208 feet, that would have added an additional 3,224 square feet. And that would have brought our, if you added that property in, that would have brought our lot coverage down to, I think, 38.6%. So because the curve of the road, and if you look at all the rest of the houses going down the road on our lane, they're all long things, they all have a curb cut in front of them, and they all have nice, long, extended property. So that's what we came up with, and without that, we cut it back, like he said, 5% or so from the original plan. So hopefully that will you make a decision, you know, that you definitely try to cut down on the property usage and the pervious area down to at least 44.3%.
Let me interrupt you for just a minute, Pickle. I want to ask a question of Mr. Semina. Because Demery Drive is sort of a flattened out S-curve at that spot, if the street had been perfectly parallel with the rear lot line, then Mr. Pickle and his wife would have been able to have a house closer to Demery, and the rear yard would have been large enough to handle what he's applied for. Is that correct?
Yeah, the curvature in the roadway actually, I don't have the number in front of me. If he had a rectangular shaped lot instead of an angular shaped lot, he pretty much lost a rectangular in front of the property, which decreased the theoretical square footage that he could have had.
One side I read to be 207 and the other one to be 154 feet.
Yes,
So there is a 50-foot difference
that's correct.
between one side and the other. Okay. And that's the difficulty, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Anything you want to add?
No.
No, she hasn't been sworn yet, so she can't talk. Lady and gentleman, do you have any questions?
Yes, don't leave us, yes. Please. Gentlemen, question?
Yeah, I have a question. I just want to make sure I understand. So I'm looking at the plot, right?
Yes, sir.
And I'm seeing what you're talking about is this is chopped off.
Yes,
If you
sir.
had a perfectly rectangular lot with what you're wanting to do right now, you would be at 38%?
38.6%.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Any other questions?
None for me. Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Pickerel. Are there any other persons present in the room who would like to speak in favor of this application for a variance by George M. and Mary Ann Pickerel at 13 Demery Drive? There appear to be none. Sir, you're the only person got left in the room. Would you like to address the board on this application? And if you do, I need for you to stand up here, and I got to swear you in.
Yeah, I apologize, but I have suddenly lost my hearing and I haven't had a chance to take care of it, so much of what's said, it went by me.
Okay, would you raise your right hand? Raise your right hand and state your name and tell us where you live.
I see, my name is James Ryan and my property is directly next to Mr. Pickering's.
Raise your hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give the Board of Adjustment of the Town of Ocean View is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Floor is yours.
Yeah, I guess I thought that the matter was settled. I didn't realize that it's been delayed from May until now, and I guess this final decision will be made today. Is that correct?
We intend to, yes, it should be.
I wrote a long email and sent it in May, and I guess it pretty much details what I would say now. My property line runs the entire length of Mr. Pickle's backyard. The extreme southeast corner is basically almost in my front yard. I did not like the idea of a shed, and I mentioned it to Mr. Pickle way back when that was added to the property. The shed is like 9 feet from the fence, and then I guess another 9 or 10 feet on the other side of the fence is my house. If any structure would go in near the shed, then I would be most unhappy about that. Because my house is a rambler. The proposed height was 16 feet of the pool house, and I think it would be very unsightly in that spot. I suggested in my email that perhaps considering the northeast corner of the property, away from Daisy Avenue, my street in front of my house, would reluctantly be fine with me, I guess. But to put it on the southeast portion of my lot, his lot rather, I think would be very detrimental. I think it might affect the sale price of my house and definitely the appearance of those two properties. Because of my age, I plan to probably sell the house sometime next year and go into a retirement community. So I am concerned about this very much. I do not understand 5 variances. I don't know the history of your group or the jargon that you use and so forth, but 5 variances from the code seems excessive to achieve what you want. 3 of them, I believe, are directly related to the pool house. I would ask Mr. Pickrell, is there a pool plan?
I'm sorry, the question again, please? What was your question?
What's your
again?
question, Mr. Pickrell?
Pardon me?
What question would you ask Mr.
I would
Pickrell?
ask, why all these variances? What does he plan to build on the property?
Do we still need all of them?
No, I'll address this.
We're going to let Mr. Semino answer the question, okay? Because there are not 5 variances anymore.
So tonight's hearing is for 1 variance. It's for impervious lot coverage.
And then what comes after that, I guess, is my problem.
Nothing. He's seeking to construct the pool, and in order to construct that pool, the applicant needs a variance to exceed the maximum lot coverage of 35%. But I will say that his proposed shed is within code. It is 11.1 feet from the rear property line. And I would like to remind the Board of Adjustment, our hearing tonight is not about a proposed shed. Our hearing tonight is about lot coverage.
Yeah, to me,
The 5 variances that the applicant was originally seeking, 3 of them were for existing nonconformities. An existing nonconformity is for something that was constructed under old code or a different version of code.
Yes,
It met the code at the time, so it's really a formality. That was what 3 of the variances were for. The 4th was for the pool house and the height. He since has decided not to construct the pool house. So the only variance we're discussing tonight is for lot coverage to construct the proposed pool on this parcel of land.
Well, as I stated in my email before, I have no problem with the pool.
Thank you.
I wish them a lot of joy using it and so forth.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I have no problem.
I bet if you bring a 6-pack over, they'll
My
share it
problem
with you.
was the suggestion that there would be a bathhouse.
No, there's not going to be a bathhouse. They've eliminated the change, the house, the change clothes, the pool
All right,
house.
so
That's been
as the
eliminated.
Arabs say, it's closed and.
Yes.
All right. All right.
Anything else, Mr. Ryan?
Yeah, I believe that's all I want to. Thank you.
Any questions of Mr. Ryan? Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Carter, are there any persons who are joining us online who have indicated, are there no persons online? There are no persons online, Madam Chair. Mr. Ryan has had his opportunity to speak, Mr. Pickle has spoken, and Mr. Semino has given the staff
And
explanation.
Mrs. Pickerel, you do not want to add anything to it?
Don't invite that. No. You can't speak until I swear you in, and we have to go through 5 minutes worth of formalities. Don't do that.
No, I think we're good.
Mr. Pickerel will run the risk of Mrs. Pickerel's wrath if he gets it wrong, okay? So I'm going to close the public hearing, Madam Chair, and turn the floor back over to you for any action that the
Okay.
board may take.
Gentlemen, and
I have a question.
certainly.
I have a question for Mr. Pickerel. The new shed,
Yes, sir.
is it in the same location as the current shed?
Yes, sir.
It's just going to be bigger?
A little bit bigger, 4 feet thicker.
Is it going to be higher?
No,
It will be the same height?
it's going to be 14 feet.
Okay.
Mr. Couples, any questions?
None.
Mr. Lawless?
Question for Mr. Semino. You mentioned that there are other properties on Demery Drive that variances have been allowed to exceed the 35% impervious coverage. I was not present at that time. Can you give me a sense of
No,
where they?
I mentioned that there are other variances that this board has granted for folks wishing to construct pools on lots within the town limits of Ocean View recently that this board has approved.
Did they precipitate an exceeding of the 35%?
They were already over the 35% before they came to the
Okay.
board asking for more.
Okay.
If you want to have some fun, Mr. Wallace, take a look at Google Earth view of Ocean View, and you will be shocked at the number of swimming pools that there are within, what, 500 yards of this building there.
We're no longer Tree City, USS.
Yeah, we're
Pool
Pool
City.
City. Yeah, it's amazing the number of pools.
Okay, thank you very much.
But I will say that variances for lot coverage are not for any type of structure, are not uncommon.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I
Mr.
just
Newton?
have a comment. My concern always on exceeding lot coverage is where's the water going to go?
Right.
And I
We've
don't,
reviewed this plan, and they're not going to be pushing any water on anybody's property. There will be no drainage problems associated with this. The town engineer and I have both reviewed this.
okay, thank you.
There is a letter in the file from the town engineer when it was reviewed before.
Yes, okay, I recall that. Yes, I remember that, thank you.
Mr. Couples, any questions? left? And Mr. Lawless, any more
No.
questions? All right, Mr. Solicitor, then I think we are ready to take a motion.
I agree.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I move we approve the application B415.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion has carried.
And we'll know for the
Thank you,
record-
and thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll know for the record that it was for Mr. Brindell did not vote because he had recused himself.
Madam Chairperson,
Do you
I move that we
agenda?
adjourn.
Thank you, and do I hear a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion has carried to adjourn.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks for coming in. Thanks, guys. Good to see you.